Okay, thank you very much for allowing me to speak on your platform because I do have a very important message for the Japanese audience and the Japanese public and the Japanese citizens. And I am honored and humbled that you have allowed me to use your platform to deliver this message. So I want to thank you for that. Okay, we we the White Hats, our organization, our network has had a relationship with officials in Japan for a very long time. And that is the basis of our relationship that we value very much to this day. So I want to say that first and foremost, because this is the foundation by which we have gone forward. And this is the foundation by which I want to talk to you, your audience, about the last probably 6 or 7 or 8 months. And that was that through the point of contact that we have now, I was asked if it was okay if a group in Japan was had permission to translate our reports into Japanese and post those reports on a website. And I gave verbal permission that that was fine. That was nothing different from probably almost 100 or more websites who repost our reports in the United States. And there's only one caveat or one condition that we have, and that is that you reference and source the White Hats reports so everyone knows the source of the information. But we do not restrict the reprinting of our reports in any way, shape, or form. Actually, we encourage as many websites as possible to repost our reports because that's the way you get the word out. So that permission was granted, and we put a announcement up on our website, I believe in May, just one paragraph stating that we were happy to announce a sort of a partnership with our friends in Japan who were going to translate our reports into the Japanese language and post them on a website. Okay, so I believe there was an online salon that opened in June of this year. And as soon as it opened, we were getting feedback from some people in Japan that there were representations made by owners of the salon or the people who were running the salon, that some of the rumors were that we were the worldwide financial police and we could make arrests. That this salon was owed money through PayPal with withholding their money, and we were going to be the ones that were going to come along and go to PayPal and force PayPal to release the funds. There were also some other representations that were untrue. And once we found out about those, I sent a letter through the translator that I was working with to assist with translating the White Hat reports for publication in Japan. I sent a letter to the translator expressing our surprise and our consternation and our disgust that this was being said in Japan and that they were using our names for their purposes, and we told them that they needed to stop, and they needed to stop immediately or we could not continue with the relationship. As I understand it, the translator went to Mr. Nato. Mr. Nato assured her or told her to assure me that it would not happen again. So as we progressed through the summertime, and I was working with the translator through emails because they would send me passages from some of the reports, and they needed an explanation or they needed to understand what phrases and slang words that we used in the report so they could translate them properly into the Japanese language so that the readers of the reports would understand exactly what we were saying. Throughout this time frame, then, my point of contact that originally called me up in the States, and he is T-Man. I'll just say it's T-Man. I think everybody knows who T-Man is. He was with us from the beginning in 2010, and he sort of shifted into other, and I can tell you more important responsibilities in the middle of June of 2012. He still is with our group. He is in an advisory capacity, and I talk to him almost, well, I don't want to sound like somebody else in Japan, but I do talk to him frequently. I've known him for 25 years, and we are very good friends, in addition to being very close associates with the White Hats. But his involvement with the White Hats ceased in June of 2012 as it relates to anything that the White Hats were putting out. So about 2 months after he had received, or he had asked me to transmit to Japan through his contact, that the group in Japan had our permission to print our reports and translate them into the Japanese language. A few months, maybe a month or two after that, he was sent some attachments that showed a book that this group was going to release, and it showed a picture of the White Hat logo on the front. They were actually using the White Hat Media Group logo, and we told them we didn't want them to use that logo. We wanted them to use the White Hat's reports. At that time, it was my understanding that they were writing a book about us and not writing a book about the reports. We thought the book was about, Paladin and T-Man and how we came together and the impact that our reports had on the public, some of the information perhaps that we released in the reports. Later, we found out that no, it wasn't that. It was that they were actually translating the reports into Japanese, and they were then putting them in the book. When we found that out through the translator that I had been working with for weeks, translating the reports, I indicated that we had not given permission to anyone in Japan to use our intellectual property and our copyrighted material in books. So I wanted to know what the situation was in regards to the contract that the group in Japan had with a publisher. And the translator got with Mr. Nato and got back with me and indicated to me that they had a royalty agreement with the publisher. And at that point in time, I said, okay, if that's the case, then we need to get a royalty agreement with us so that we can release permission. We can give you permission to put our reports translated into a book that is for sale. That had not taken place. I asked for Mr. Nato through the translator to send a copy of a contract that we could review and we could sign that would then officially give them permission to use our copyrighted material. When I received the contract, it was one page. It was very unprofessional. It was obvious that it was not done by an attorney, and it was something that we would never sign, and we did not ever sign it. That was the first red flag for us that we had a problem with our Japanese friends. The next problem was we were talking about, I told the translator to communicate to Mr. Nato that we will handle the contract. We will draw up a contract that gives them the rights to our copyrighted material, and we will send it to them. And I asked for a split of the royalties. Mr. Nato, through the translator, came back with some story that the royalties, there were expenses that he wanted to use against the royalties to reduce the percentage of royalties that then would be split with us. That was the second red flag, because we knew that the expenses he was saying were not expenses that should be customarily taken out and used against royalties. In other words, if the royalty fee is 10%, then they should get 5, we should get 5. He came up with expenses that I know are not related to the book or to royalties, and he tried to reduce that percentage to us from 5 to 3. He said, no, there's 4%. So we take 4% from 10%. There's 6%. We'll split 6%. So you'll get 3 and we'll get 3. And I knew we had a problem then also. So at that point in time, we started an investigation. We started looking into the situation. The first book was released September 11th, volume 1, I believe it's called. I had started through social media, through email and Twitter. I was getting feedback on some of the things that were said at the salon, some of the things that were said at certain gatherings in public. And I also received feedback of certain things that were said in the book after our reports were translated. Then there was a commentary that followed that was done primarily by Mr. Nato with assistance from the gentleman who runs the salon. When I found out what the content was of that commentary, I knew that we had a serious problem, because they were not authorized, number one, to release any more information regarding us, and the information that they were releasing in the commentary part was not accurate. They were misrepresenting the White Hats. So at that point in time, we contacted attorneys. We wrote up cease and desist notices. We sent those cease and desist notices to the HOOH Club and also the publisher. Those cease and desist notices were sent out a day ago, yesterday. Well, actually last night for us, yesterday for Japan. Those have been received. All of the directors, officers, and board members of the HOOH Club have received those, as has the publisher. And we gave them a deadline to respond to those cease and desist notices. And we are hopeful that they will comply with what we have put in our cease and desist notices, so that we do not have to take any further legal action. Now, what I want to say to the Japanese audience is that we are very sorry that this group has decided to utilize our name, our reputation, our standing in the world, our recognition to create multiple income streams in Japan, and while doing so, misrepresenting what we stand for, what we are, and what we do. So for that, the White Hats officially would like to apologize to everyone in Japan, because it was not our intention for any of this to happen. We did not give a green light. We did not okay a crowdfunding. We did not okay a book, and we did not okay memberships being sold in an online salon for the purpose of bringing people in and telling them stories about the White Hats that were not true and not authorized, and also utilizing that salon to talk about currencies, various currencies and investments that they should be buying based on information that they were getting from the White Hats, because that is not true. Now, I, Paladin, own the copyright material. I own the domain name. I own the website, and I am the copyright owner of the intellectual property of the White Hats reports. And if I have to go to legal remedies to enforce my rights I will do so. And so I want everyone to know that I am pursuing that, and I am pursuing it because it's in my name, but the White Hat network and group that is behind the White Hats reports and the White Hat group and media group are behind me. So I just want to let the Japanese audience know that we are trying to put a stop to this immediately, and hopefully the board members of the HOOH Club and the publishers of the book will understand the legal position that they are in, and they will adhere to our demands to cease and desist immediately. With the time change, you guys, we're on opposite ends of the world. Um, the language, we have a language barrier, so it's been very difficult for us to stay up with this. But
Mhm.
once we got the information and we saw the quality of the people that we were dealing with, primarily Mr. NATO,
Mhm.
that we knew that we had a problem,
Mhm.
because if he wanted to use our copyrighted material for a book,
Mhm.
then he should have been the one to come to us
Mhm.
as an honorable person would,
Mhm.
and provide us with a way, a legal document, a legal contract in which he could legally get permission to use our intellectual property in Japan.
Mhm.
It came from us because then we found out that that intellectual property was being put into books. So we were the ones to have to make the contact and say, hey, Mr. NATO, you're using our copyrighted material. You don't have permission, authorization to do that. So you better send us a document so that we can come to an agreement so you can do that. And when we got the agreement, as I said earlier, it was a very substandard agreement. It was not, obviously not prepared by an attorney, and it was obvious that he probably dictated it maybe to a translator to put it down on one piece of paper and send it. So we knew that was a problem. We deal in honesty and integrity because at the end of the day, our word is all we have. And so to be associated with something like this is it's very disappointing to us, and it's a case where we trusted people that maybe we shouldn't have trusted, but our bond with the Japanese people, we still feel like we have a strong bond, and we cannot abandon the Japanese people just because of a few people who are trying to become greedy from our work, and they have egos that are out of control. And that's unfortunate because those are two of the seven sins, seven deadly sins. And these are things that we work daily to try to avoid. It's not about money, it's not about greed. Our whole organization, we do not have a boss, we do not have a line of reporting. We all work together. We all have a function, and it takes every single one of us to provide the information that we have provided to the public, and no one is above the other in our organization. We are all equal. We don't need a boss. We just come together. We produce a product. Everyone has an assignment. Everyone has a task. They do the task, and hopefully the result that we produce is will help the world. And that's really all I have to say about that. The relationship that we have and we have had with Japan is not with him. It is someone else, and he just happened to be involved with that person, and he has used that person's name and reputation in addition to ours to try to further himself. And that is really sad because he has he has attempted to damage both of us, but it's not going to work. So we wanted to come directly to the Japanese people because we know that Mr. NATO is saying things about me being a liar. And I would just challenge Mr. NATO to prove that I'm a liar, prove that I don't own the White Hats website, prove that I don't own the domain name, prove that I don't own the intellectual property and copyrighted material on the White Hats reports, and prove that I gave you written permission through a contract that you could use our intellectual property to make money. And that's all he has to do. He's called me a liar. I've gotten that information back from several people. And so he wants to call me a liar in public. Well, I am calling him out, and I am saying to you, Mr. NATO, you prove that I am a liar. We hope that we can continue our relationship with Japan, and we want to maintain that relationship because we have special places in our heart for the Japanese, and we don't want to do anything to hurt that. So we hope that we can go forward, but we always want to tell the truth, and we want this message to be delivered directly to the Japanese people. And I cannot thank you enough, the whole White Hat team. We hope to get through this and pass this and maintain our relationship with Japan, and hopefully we can strengthen it going forward. This is special. I know I said that when we were interviewing, but I do really mean it, that this gives me a way to go direct to the audience in Japan. And that's the most important thing, because now I can tell my side of the story. Thank you very much. You are very much appreciated. Bye.